Take a vagabond, dream of a vagabond.
Hi, this is Mark and this is Lisa, and we're the Vagabond Dreamers. We're standing on the balcony of our Vienna hotel after having just spent almost a week in Venice and in northern Italy. What'd you think?
There was a lot going on in our time in those areas. I guess we can just start with Venice because that was the primary focus of why we were there. And Venice was really, really interesting. I was appreciative that we went at the time that we did because we got to see so many things, specifically like canals. I had a vision of what the canals were like, and they were even better than my vision. They were very clean and the gondolas were cool. I kept waiting for one to tip over and it never happened. But we didn't ride one. We decided that wasn't what we wanted to do, but we saw so many different canals, walked over so many bridges. It was really, really cool.
I think saying that it was the right time to be there underscores probably my one big problem with Venice is how crowded it was, and this was not even high season yet. The whole trips through all these really narrow streets, and focusing on the bridges going over the canals just had people everywhere to see this really remarkable city. Mm-hmm. We went on a tour. We don't usually do that, but we went on a tour. What did we do?
Well, tours were very expensive. And I think if you know the way we travel now, you know that we don't spend a ton of money on a ton of things. So we picked one specific thing we wanted to see, and that was the Doge. It's important to me that I pronounce it correctly for so many reasons. And wow, I didn't know anything about this particular building. And I was mesmerized. It was super interesting. I think Mark even learned some things.
I did. Well, the one thing that I think most Americans would have no idea about is how rich Venice was in its prime. They were the only city-state in Europe willing to trade with Muslims, and the Muslims controlled the Silk Roads, Indian Ocean trade. They controlled all of that through the Ottoman Empire, and the Venetians were willing to trade with them, and they got really, really rich, and the evidence of that is just everywhere. And the Doge Palace was just full of armaments and treasures of this very wealthy state, and the prisons.
Yeah, it was always the prisons
that we got to walk through.
Which made sense because we walked over the Bridge of Sighs, and now I understand why they call it the Bridge of Sighs.
Now we've climbed up here to the Bridge of... Indeed. This is the path the prisoners would use, going from court to prison.
It was problematic.
Yeah,
it always is for me.
It was really a fantastic walk through and seeing this. And it gives you both sides. You know, they did accomplish some really amazing things, but they were also pretty harsh and brutal in so many ways. Leaving that, we came across the Holocaust.
Well, specifically, we headed toward that.
Well, we went to the Jewish Ghetto. We wanted to see that, and we didn't know what would be there. Mm-hmm. But there's a memorial there of some artwork depicting the shooting of the Venetian Jews who were shipped out of there on two different occasions. Really somber, really difficult to look at. I know the pictures that we're showing right now are not that easy to see. It's just sort of the nature of the way the artist did the work. But again, it goes to, important stuff for really all of us is to, all the splendor, all the things that we look at, it has a really dark side, in this case, a super dark side. Yeah. But then we went to the beach.
We did. So we stayed in a place called Lido di Jesolo, so I knew this coming up, that once we hit the Amalfi Coast and we hit these beaches in Italy, beaches aren't going to be like the beaches that I'm used to in Michigan, or even wherever we vacationed. Jesolo was beautiful, and we had a really, really special little hotel, very affordable, right off the beach. So we were just a 2-minute walk to the beach. I have never seen so many umbrellas and beach chairs in my entire life. I took off one morning and I told Mark I'm going to go for a walk. I walked at least 2.5 miles one direction and didn't run out of beach or beach chairs. And we're still kind of in a cool season, so they weren't full.
There was nobody there really.
No, there really
beach.
wasn't. The last weekend, the weekend we left, it started to fill up. But apparently, this is the place to be, is along this beach, because the shopping, the food, the beach chairs, the lifeguard stations, really, really cool, but very, very busy in the summer. So. The expanse of beach here has the back, not the top skating here, though. Oh, what do we have there? Maryland Mark.
We left Lido di Jesolo and headed to Udine, which is the hometown of my father's family. Didn't have the same luck that we had in Ramaka looking for my mother's stuff, largely because I didn't really know where to start, and we were there on a weekend. And so I didn't really get into as much of that as we have. But Udine was an interesting town. It has a really wonderful center of the city. And we did, even though we can't really connect this to my family, we found the Pontoni Winery. This was really quite remarkable.
Very cool.
To see this whole warehouse full of bottles with my name on it, was our name on it. It was really something. And the people there were really great. They recounted when my sisters had showed up there.
Which they didn't know we were related to them. So they were talking about how 6-7 years ago they had these 3 or 4 people that came and were talking about family history in Pontoni, and Mark's like,
that's my sisters.
And yes, it absolutely was. So that was really ironic.
And they have a wonderful business going there. And the sad part is the last of the line. When Fabio retires, there's not going to be anybody to take it over, and that's really kind of sad. But I don't know. What are you doing in a couple of years? I'm
not running a winery.
Okay.
I can go visit my sister.
Go ahead.
So we stayed right outside of Udine in a hotel that had the most gorgeous view of these mountains. And of course, we know how I feel about mountains and hills and things that you can climb. And it got us really excited, at least me, about our next portion of our journey, which is going to take us right through those mountains, which I think they call the Italian Dolomites. I'm pretty sure that we were. So the mountains were incredible, and the food at this hotel was really, really good.
The mountains weren't the only big thing. We ordered. We wanted to split a pizza, and you can see on the screen what that looked like.
Yeah.
It was just nuts. We moved on from Udine to Trieste, a city I've always wanted to kind of take a look at. It's an enormous port and industrial town.
And it's the capital of the region.
The capital of the region. And it had in there some World War I trenches. Again, as a teacher of this of European and world history, World War I, could be argued as the most consequential event in Western history. And I really wanted to see some relics of it. And so we found a hike, of course, that allowed us to see a bunch of the trenches. And
it walked you through to each one of the trenches. And sometimes you didn't notice it until you went, oh, there it is. And then you could explore it. But they did tell you to not walk through the tall grasses because of
right. Well, they
weapon remnants.
There's sometimes unexploded ordnances that are found still, so they wanted you to kind of stay on the path, and we did exactly that. It was fascinating, very somber. We know how that all went, and but I was really glad I got a chance to see it, and it really brings home some of the things that I've been trying to teach about in my career. It wasn't all sad. We headed to a beach.
Well, it overlooked the harbor of Trieste, and so we made our way down to Trieste, and gosh, what a beautiful city. They have a bunch of different beaches, and we didn't have enough time to go to all of them, so we picked one beach, which was kind of the Strand, and there was no beach. People were jumping off the rocks and they were swimming, and it was really a social mecca there. Mark and I set up our towels right on right on the rocks. I think I fell asleep,
You
which
did.
I did. we were getting really good at that. But Mark jumped in. It was very cold, but it was a really, really beautiful spot. For a beach without sand, it was really, really enjoyable. We had a great afternoon.
And off the coast, you noticed this ship that looked like you thought it was kind of leaning, and I used Google picture reverse image and found out it's the ship of this Russian oligarch that the Italians had confiscated after the war in Ukraine started. All across Europe, Russian assets were being seized. So here's this $450 million ship sitting in the harbor for years, 6-7 years it's been there, I think. This ship, it's got 7 decks. It has elevators to take you from deck to deck. It's the largest sailing ship in the world, and it's just totally sitting there. But what was the best part of the whole day?
Well, we forgot to mention that. I forgot to mention that we started our day playing pickleball. So if you know that we try to connect with pickleball in every country that we're in. It's not been hugely successful, but this is success number 2. So Mark reached out to Lorenzo, who runs a pickleball club in Trieste, and he said, yeah, let's start at 10 o'clock. Come on over. So we ride down from Udine. We show up to play pickleball. We play. We get started, but the stars were just absolutely in alignment that day because there were 2 women there who we just assumed were there to play pickleball, but they weren't. They actually were coming down from Slovenia to talk with Lorenzo about connecting their 2 pickleball clubs. And when I say club, I am pretty sure that these 2 women are going to run more than just a pickleball club. So come to find out, Tia and Sandra are both professional tennis players. They played Division I tennis at University of Texas, El Paso, and then went on to coach at the Houston Country Club. And now they are really trying to organize pickleball in Europe. And it's going to be amazing. So one really, really interesting tidbit that I just was geeked about was when Sandra told me that she played tennis with Djokovic, like the Djokovic. She pulled out a newspaper clipping of their junior 14 group. She knows him well, and these 2 women are incredible players. So that
I think we proved that the 6 degrees of separation thing really works because we have 2 degrees of separation from Djokovic now.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a fun morning, and it was a really fun 5 days in that area.
This is our last night in Northeast Italy, and what a great adventure it has been. From the very big city of Venice to the mountains to the beaches, very diverse experience. What do you think?
Thoroughly enjoyed it, but I am ready for new vistas.
New vistas are coming. We're heading to Vienna in the morning, and then on to Western Austria and the mountains. This is Lisa, I'm Mark, and we're the Vagabond Dreamers.
Take a vagabond dream of vagabond. I ain't too proud to beg, but I'm playing it cool. I can do the time.